I'm your host, Sean Mackenzie. Thank you for joining me once again on my channel on data analytics and data engineering. This week we're going to return to our data engineering playlist and we're going to go back to ADO.net and we're going to talk about how to filter and sort the data that you get into your data tables. So you probably got some great data and these great big data tables in your project, and you're wondering, how can I filter and sort that? And I've got one method which is really handy, and it's called using what's called a DataView. And DataViews are really great. You can use them to filter and sort your data and return a data table with the results of your filtering and sorting, and they're a really great tool to use. So without any further ado, let's go and use our DataViews. Okay, so I've started a new console application in VB.net. There's my module 1 and my app.config. I did put a connection string in there for Oracle, which you can see how to set up your connection strings in one of my earlier videos. But for now, just rest assured that's where we're going to get our connection string from. And so I'll start off by doing a try-catch here, and I'll put a console.writeLine to give some feedback as our little application is running. And first thing I'll do is I'll get my connection string from the app.config, which is the safest way to use your connection strings. And it looks to me like I don't have my reference set, so we're gonna go back and we're gonna set a reference to system.config, which is going to give us access to the configuration manager. And the configuration manager is what sort of allows us to do these things. So I'm going to grab my reference there, and now we can go ahead and grab our connection string from app.config as the application is running. So we'll say put our connection string equal to configuration.configuration manager, then we'll say connection strings, and I've created one in there called Oracle 11G database, since that's where I'm getting our data from today. You can see that I have the name in the connection strings there, and it gets it from app.config in the connection strings section of the configuration file. That's going to help us to get our connection string. So the next thing I'll do is I'll set up our Oracle connection as a new ODBC connection object, and then we can put our connection string in there, and that's going to help us to get our data out. So what do we want to get from our database? Well, we'll set a SQL string here, and we'll say select this is going to come from our event table that I created on Oracle. So we'll select our data ID, event type, event description, and event date. Actually, I think that's event DESC. I put a short form in there for that one. Event date and event witness in there, and event severity as our field. So we'll select those, and I'll run this down to another line here, and I'll just say from our event data table, which is on our Oracle database. Then we can move on from there. And then the next thing that we'll do is we're going to create a data adapter, and the data adapter is going to help us to get data by filling a data set for us, data table in a data set. That's going to get the data, and then once we have that, then we can start sorting and filtering. So I'll just say this is my new data adapter. There's my SQL string, and we'll use the Oracle connection for that. And then from there, I can specify my data set and as a new data set, and I'll put a write line in here just to just so that people know what's going on while this is running. It's always helpful to give some feedback to the users for that. And then I'll just say data adapter fill my data table, my data set, and put it in a table called TTMP event. It's always nice to use the features of the data set where you can have many tables in one data set. And once that's done, we can add our console.writeLine there. We'll give some more feedback saying that we got the data. This is very helpful if you have, like, you know, lots and lots and lots of records and it takes a lot of time, then the user knows what's going on. And then from there I can just say my data table is equal to our new TTMP event table in our data set, and that's gonna give us a nice reference to that we can now use for querying and sorting and stuff like that. So what's in the table? We should definitely take a look at that first. So I'll just say for each row in our data table here, dot rows, we'll output some information. We'll use our console.writeLine, and we'll output a couple of things here, like the event type. We'll grab that from our row. We'll use event type, and I'll use event. Let's use event. We'll put a little dash in there so that it's actually readable, and we'll say event type and then dash, and then we'll say event date, and then we can put some more information on the end, perhaps. Yeah, we'll put the witness on the end so that we know who saw what was going on. And for that we'll say give us the row, and we'll grab the witness out of that row and just sort of give that as some feedback. And then I'll go ahead and sort of dispose of some of these objects here, so that first of all we want to close our connection when we're done, and we'll dispose of a couple of things just for housekeeping, so that each time we run this it doesn't leave things in a bad state. And disposing is always a good idea for those objects that allow it. And then we can go ahead and we can first of all get rid of a few rows, and then we can save our work so that we don't lose what we've been working on. And we should go to the end of our little script here, and we'll add first of all that we're complete, so that we know that the operation completed. And so we'll do a console.writeLine for that, and then we can we'll add a console.read key so that it'll actually stop when it's done executing, so you can see what happened. Otherwise it'll just flicker and disappear. And we'll add a press any key to continue at the end of that, and that'll sort of allow our program to stop so that we can see what's going on. And one thing that's also nice to add is we'll catch our exceptions if we get any, and we'll write those out using our writeLine statement again, but this time we'll say there was an error, and we'll catch the error number, and I'll catch the exception description as well, just so that we have some feedback if something goes wrong that we don't want to go wrong. And we'll also we'll add a console.read key onto that as well. That'll stop it if there's an error, and then we'll actually be able to see what's happening. So this is kind of like the basics of doing a console application that can do some data manipulation and also give some feedback, even though you can schedule this kind of console application in the Windows schedule tasks, which is very handy because it doesn't use a GUI. It's nice to be able to run it yourself so that you can see, test it out and see if there's any problems, or if somehow it stops running in the Windows task scheduler, you can run it and it'll give you some feedback in the console. And we'll add a press any key to continue there as well. And then you can hit F5, or you can click the start in your toolbar there. And I don't know if this will go yet. We haven't actually run this yet. But let's just see what we get. And so I've hit F5 or start on the toolbar there, and there you go. We've got an error, and it says the ODBC driver manager can't find the driver for our Oracle installation. And so that's probably due to it's either 32 or 64-bit, and I actually can't remember which one I installed on here. So we'll go ahead and we're gonna change our compile from any CPU, and we'll try it on 32-bit to start and just see what happens there. And if that doesn't work, then it'll go on 64-bit. Okay, let's save that and see what happens. So I saved it with the 32-bit, hit our F5 key and see what we get. I'll move this down here, and looks like we have the same thing. So obviously I installed the 64-bit drivers on this one, and so we'll grab that one instead in our compile variables there and save it, and then we'll go back and hit our F5 key and see what we get on that one. So there we go, getting some data from Oracle, and there you have it. So this is the start of our data. So you can see we've got earthquake, tsunami, flood, volcanoes, and you can see that there's some dates from Oracle there, all different kinds of dates. They're not in order, and then we grabbed our witness of these events as well. So we've got Jim, Sally, and Sarah, and so forth. So now that we have our data, that's great, and we can move on to perhaps doing some filtering. So I'll comment out this section for now, just so that we're not seeing that every time we run our little application. And at that point we're ready to start filtering. So we'll filter by event witness this time. So we're going to try to get the rows from our data table that have a particular event witness in that row, and we'll sort by date. What we're going to do is, for this, we'll say we'll get our query data variable as a data view, and we'll set our table data as our data table to look at, and then we'll, in the second argument, is where you are going to put your filter criteria. So in this case, we'll say where event witness is Sally, and then we'll sort by event date. So that's your third argument in that one. And if you have a table that is actually changing quite a bit in your ETL or something like that, you can add the data view row state equals current rows, and you can actually just put data view row state equals current rows, and that'll help you to get the most current rows in your data set there. And then we'll say our witness table, we'll say that's a data table, and then we'll say query data to table, and that's going to cause it to sort of execute itself and give the results into a table. And then from there we can nicely go ahead and say for every row in our witness table, let's output some information from our results. And we'll grab our witness name, and we'll grab a date and the type of event that they saw, just so that we have some event information that we can output into our console. In a normal application, you would not output the data to the console. You would probably be doing something else with it, like populating another database or a data warehouse or something like that. But this allows you to see kind of how some of these transformations and things happen by seeing it in the console. So grab our witness, our date, and our event type. And then I can save that one. And then we can hit our F5 and sort of see what we're going to get from this, and run our application. So let's see what we get here. So there we go. We've got our data from Oracle, and we filtered it by Sally, and we've got our event date, which is in order, and we've got our different event types on the end there. So that kind of gives us an idea of what's happening there, so we can filter and sort by those parameters. Okay, and then we can proceed on to another example. I'll get rid of this commented text. I don't think that we need that. And I think this time what we'll do is we'll use the like operator, and that'll allow us to get the value where any part of the field sort of matches, whether we want either the start, the end, or somewhere in the middle of the field has a value that we want. And so what we'll do is we'll say where the event description, which is kind of a descriptive field, is like, and we could put island in there. And so that'll give us all of the rows that have event description with island in the name, and we'll sort it by event date, just like we did before. And I guess these fields look pretty good, but I want to see description in there instead of the type, so we'll put description in. I'll save it and run it, and then we'll see what we get here. And there we go. So we've got our witness, so Sally, and she saw in event date order there, and we've got two rows where there was island, the word island, in the description. So there's our eruption on Lava Island and eruption on Volcano Island, and those are two filtered using the like operator, which is extremely handy for your ETL. And for the next example, we'll use and in our criteria, so that we can use more than one field, and we'll add two sort criteria as well, just so that we can make it a little bit more exciting here. And so instead of using the like operator like we did, this time we want to see what earthquakes did Jim see. And we'll sort it by event date and the data ID. So we can say event witness equals Jim, and we'll say where the event type was earthquake, and then that'll give us Jim's earthquake data, and then we can go ahead and go to our sort argument here, and we can say sort by event date, and we'll sort by data ID, which will give us a nice output, although there's not enough records to really use that sort, but you get the idea. So there we go. So we've got a witness where it was Jim, and he saw an earthquakes in this order, and it was an earthquake near Farmer Town and an earthquake in Abandoned Village. So that gives you an idea of how that can work with using the AND operator and the two sort criteria. Okay, and just like in SQL, we can do other things like sort in descending order if we wanted to. So we could use that as an example here. So we could sort in a descending order, and we could use that on one of our fields just to demonstrate that. So we could say sort by event date descending instead of ascending like we did in our previous one, and we can save that and hit F5, and you'll see that changes the order of our output here from Oracle. So we've got our data, it sorted it in descending order instead of ascending order as it was before, and that's a good example as well. just like SQL, we can also use greater than or less than operators. So that's something that we can do here. So we'll change our criteria statement here, and we'll just say where data ID is greater than 4, because we have 10 items from 1 to 10 with our primary key of data ID, and we could say sort by the data ID descending, and we'll get our rows that way. And we can add our data ID into our output here just so that we can see what's going on. So we can change our event type instead of the event description, save it and hit F5, and in this case then we can see, yes, we've got our data. It's in descending order from 10 until 5, and but you'll see that we've used greater than. We only wanted anything greater than 4, and that is in our output. And that is how you use DataViews in ADO.NET to filter and sort your data table data. I hope you enjoyed our video today on using DataViews with data tables to filter and sort the data in ADO.NET. And if you liked what you saw today, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And also, when you see the bell, click the bell so you will be notified of any new content that I put up on the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave some comments in the comment section below, or if you have any questions or problems with using the method I showed you today, just go ahead and comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.